Australia's most common snake, and that's quite a problem, because it's also one of the world's deadliest. Introducing the eastern brown snake, native to quite literally every state in the land down under. And unluckily for us, this asshole has earned himself a silver medal in the Note Rope Olympics venom category, coming in second place for the most venomous snake in the world. It is worth noting that third and first place are unsurprisingly also both held by Australian snakes. Because God hates us. However, unlike first and third, the toxic middle child here is a far larger problem, because putting it lightly, he's a cunt. The eastern brown is one of the most territorial species of snake in the world, which is a scientific way of saying they operate on the US home defense philosophy. If you dare put a pinky toe onto this guy's property, he will bite your ass, injecting you with a hemotoxin that can send you to heaven via blood clot in under 30 minutes if left untreated. But hey, stay off his property and he'll leave you alone, right? Yeah, one problem. His property is your property.
Get the fuck out of my room and play Minecraft!
That's right, the eastern brown doesn't live out in the middle of nowhere like his slightly more deadly cousin. This fucker is so at home in the suburbs, he drives a fucking Prius. You can find this burnt piece of spaghetti literally anywhere. Go to put your shoes on, he's turned them into a 2-bedroom home. Hop in the car to go to work. Yeah, unfortunately, that's his car now. Get to work on the job site? What do you know? He f***ing works here too. Try to take a shower after a long day at work? F*** off, he's moisturising. You can't even take a shit in the comfort of your own home without running the risk of the dunny being occupied. In fact, these bastards are so omnipresent that out of the 200 species of snake in the country, this ginormous asshole makes up 60% of snake bites. What a cunt. Australia has a lot of spiders, but recently we found a new one, because of course we fucking did. And the new one is the most certified Australia moment I've ever seen. For a bit of context, one of the several thousand spider species we are home to is the Sydney funnelweb, the deadliest spider on the planet. Because of course it's down here. Where the fuck else did you think you were going to find it? These scary looking fuckers are highly venomous and can flatline you with a bite in 15 minutes. And if you think wearing thick clothes will save you, be aware the bastards have fangs long enough to punch through shoe leather. Now, why do I bring these little nightmares up? What is the one thing worse than a spider rocking armor-piercing rounds that can send you to heaven with same-day delivery? A bigger spider rocking the same perk setup. That's right, Australian scientists have found a brand new species of this funnel web that is even bigger. How much bigger? Well, the standard Sydney funnel web grows to around 5 centimetres or 2 inches. And I mean, if you're asking me, 2 inches is more than enough. 2 inches is actually fucking huge. By comparison, this is the new one. It's twice the fucking size, cunt. 4 inches of 8-legged menace to the animal kingdom. But that isn't even the best part. You see, do you know what they named this thing? Do you know what professional scientists named a supersized version of the most dangerous spider on the entire fucking planet? The Newcastle Big Boy. Deadliest spider on the entire fucking globe. Big Boy. Only in Australia. Actually a soldier. But how? You see, it was 1942 and the 22nd Polish Artillery Company were passing through the mountains of Iran on their way to the front lines to fight the Nazis. While passing through a town on their way, they were stopped by a young Iranian shepherd looking to trade with them for rations and a Swiss Army knife. When the Poles asked what he had to offer in return, the young shepherd produced a burlap sack containing an orphaned Syrian brown bear cub. You see, this bear's mother was shot by hunters, which is how he ended up in a low-tech Pokeball being offered as a trade deal. The Polish looked at the bear and, clearly seeing the potential for insane dad lore, said,
Damn good deal.
and in the most worthwhile trade deal in history, parted ways with their supplies in exchange for a f***ing Pokemon, adopting him into their ranks and naming him Wojtek. And the 22nd immediately set about raising this little man as a proper bear and soldier.
Maggots!
As a baby, they would feed him condensed milk out of an empty vodka bottle, as well as feeding him on the cartoon bear diet consisting of fruit, honey, and marmalade. They also appointed a soldier as his caretaker who wasted no time in showing Wojtek how to fit in with the rest of the army, teaching Yogi's little cousin to wave, salute, and even march. While not undergoing rigorous military training, Wojtek would hang out with the soldiers. He drank coffee with them in the morning, trained with them in the day, and when they all got shit-faced in the evening, he would f***ing wrestle with them. Do you know how much a brown bear has to love you to wrestle you? On top of double rations, they would also feed Wojtek treats in the form of beer and cigarettes. They let the bear have smoko. Eventually, Army High Command heard about this and were having absolutely f***ing none of it. You see, pets were not allowed in the army, which meant Wojtek had to go. Or did he? Because the 22nd Artillery Company officially enlisted him.
I'm doing my part.
I'm doing my part.
I'm doing my part.
Wojtek was given a serial number and granted the rank of private, so when confronted about the very conspicuous bear in their ranks, they simply went, "That's not a bear, that's Private Wojtek." And Wojtek took his new role very seriously, as during the Battle of Monte Cassino in 1944, Wojtek began using his bulk to transport artillery shells and ammo to soldiers engaged in combat. They had a fucking resupply bear. For his bravery, he was promoted to the rank of corporal, and the 22nd changed their insignia to a bear carrying an artillery shell. This absolute unit smoked, drank, and dropped artillery on the Nazis. Based. And will beat you up. That's right, just because it's not venomous doesn't mean it can't knock you on your ass, and Australia's most iconic marsupial can do just that. Because they are way bigger than you think they are. With our biggest species of roo coming in at a ridiculous 2.8 meters in length. And with the iconic hop, they've got a vertical jump of 3 meters. I mean, honestly, with a stat spread like that, they don't belong in the outback, they belong on a fucking NBA court. As if that wasn't enough, they're also built like tanks, weighing in at a full 90 kilos of roid-raging rabbit muscle, and being able to move way faster than anything that heavy has any right to, pegging the speedo at a max of 70k an hour. Meaning if you make them angry, a juiced up rat the size of a small car is going to run your ass down and beat the f***ing brakes off you. And I'm not kidding when I say they really will rock your shit, because roos are professional kickboxers, with males routinely fighting MMA to win female attention. When they fight, kangaroos will lean back on their tails as a stabilizer and immediately start scratching and kicking the ever-loving shit out of one another. And those kicks have enough force to crack bone. And as if getting drop-kicked by a muscled marsupial wasn't bad enough, they also for some reason have the same bite force as a grizzly bear, because why not? Now, even with all of this, there are still animals stupid enough to view a roo as lunch, which brings me to the most terrifying thing that they do. When threatened, kangaroos will hop into a body of water and wait for whatever is chasing them to follow them in. Once the predator enters the water, the kangaroo will wrap its arms around their neck and just straight up drown them. What the man? I share a country with psychopathic tren rats.
Oh!
Just dinosaurs that forgot to go extinct. I am dead serious, and I cannot think of a croc species to better make my point than the saltwater crocodile, a species native to the land down under, and shocking absolutely no one, yes, it can and will eat you. You see, keeping on theme with the whole forgetting to go extinct thing, the Salties stat spread just feels like something that should have been patched out with the rest of Jurassic Park, starting with their ridiculous size. You see, Salties are the largest reptile on the planet, coming in at a total of 6 meters long with a maximum weight of 1,100 kilos, which makes this murder lizard genuinely longer than my car. And the f***ed up part is that despite being longer than my ute, they are for some reason absolute masters of stealth. You see, crocs are ambush predators, which is a scientific way of saying they are dirty f***ing campers. You see, they've got 2 raised eyes that sit on the top of their heads, which means they can submerge their Ford Falcon-sized frame basically entirely under the water without sacrificing the ability to spot whatever they are looking to turn into a Happy Meal. And from your perspective as the Happy Meal, they are really difficult to see, which makes it very easy to walk just a little too close and, get bitten in half by that hydraulic press that they call a mouth.
That's why I love Nestle Crunch.
That's right, just like any good camper, these scaly arseholes are packing a one-shot in the form of one of the highest bite forces of any animal on the f***ing planet, having been recorded at putting out a maximum of 3,700 psi of force through their jaws. To put that into context, your skull will crack at 1,100 psi, so a croc would pop your head like a watermelon. And if you don't immediately get folded by the first bite, those jaws will latch onto you as the croc begins a death roll, spitting its ton of body weight like a washing machine until whatever part of you it has decided to eat snaps off and is added to its protein goals. But the best thing about the crocodile is their build is so f***ing good. They have genuinely been around with very little evolutionary change for 65 million years. Which means I grew up watching Steve Irwin wrestle dinosaurs for fun. Rest in peace, you absolute f***ing legend. Is basically a time bomb. Introducing the Irukandji, a species of jellyfish native to the northern waters of the land down under, and possibly my least favourite animal in the entire ocean, because it is just a massive, spiteful cunt. Well, massive is misleading, as this little guy is tiny. I mean, ridiculously small, being not much bigger than your fingernail at the head and basically completely f***ing invisible to the naked eye. This is a fairly major problem, because behind that halo cloak frame they are dragging 3-foot-long tentacles and shocking absolutely no one.
Say the line, Bart.
It is one of the most venomous jellyfish in the ocean. Yeah! I'm so f***ing tired of the stealth poison multi-classes on OCE servers, dude. This shit is broken. You see, those 3-foot tentacles are covered with tiny little barbs, and at the barest touch, they will literally propel themselves into your skin like a bullet and inject you with the Australia Special, a pina colada cocktail of various neurotoxins. And upon being injected, you will feel absolutely f***ing nothing. You'll keep swimming around, splashing about in the water, kissing the homies, until you are overcome with a sudden, severe feeling of impending dread. I mean the kind of dread that will have you hysterically screaming that you are about to die.
I am gonna die! I'm gonna die! I'm gonna f***ing die!
That's because the invisible cunt here does psychic damage, inflicting a condition known as Irukandji syndrome, which starts with a feeling of impending doom so strong there are records of people asking to be, avoiding a ban here, forcibly disconnected from God's Minecraft server. And that feeling of doom is warranted because about 30 minutes after being stung, that biological bomb goes off, with the venom initially causing extreme pain throughout your entire body. And after making you feel like a failed isekai protagonist, the venom then spikes your blood pressure and heart rate through the roof, which can cause heart attacks, blood clots, and has even been recorded to cause brain hemorrhages. And the f***ed up part is, it doesn't have an anti-venom. This thing sneak attacks you, waits 30 minutes, sends you a private DM telling you it got your ass, and there is not a f***ing thing you can do about it. Toxic little shit. Just found zombified bugs. That's right, we are closer to the Walking Dead Down Under than you think. You see, just recently, a scientist by the name of Dr. Francois Broussard made a trek out to the remote savannah of the Northern Territory, with the goal of finding and cataloguing brand new species of insect unknown to science. I mean, me personally, I think we've found more than enough bugs, especially considering that half of them can send me directly into the f***ing soil. But what do I know, right? Anyway, on his trip to the middle of nowhere, he stumbled across a colony of spiny savanna ants, which is a pretty normal thing to find out there. However, getting closer, he noticed something a little off. You see, the main ant colony was fine, completely normal. However, the several disfigured and deformed ant corpses clamped onto shoots of grass surrounding the colony like a Bug's Life version of Vlad the Inhaler, yeah, those were significantly less normal. Broussard, mildly unsettled by the ant gore on his timeline, took samples for inspection and upon getting a closer look, realised something both really cool and really spooky. The ants had been overtaken by fungus.
Big old red ones.
More accurately, a previously unknown strain of the cordyceps fungus, infamous around the globe for its ability to create zombie bugs. And the way it does it is unbelievably horrific. You see, it begins with a spore landing on an ant and producing a thin rope-like strand that penetrates and attaches to their exoskeleton. At which point, the ant gets a little timer on his hotbar, counting down to a family reunion with his ancestors. Once inside, the fungus begins to take control of the ant's body and brain function, completely changing their behavior, replacing their colony-focused mindset with one single goal: climb. Its fungus-riddled mind drags its rapidly deteriorating body to the closest high point, which is usually a plant, with its final act being to clamp its mandibles onto the stem in a death grip. Finally succumbing to the infection and being completely consumed, its corpse blossoming into a fully grown cordyceps fungus and raining down spores onto the rest of the colony to continue the cycle of infection. Now look, I know this fungus is found elsewhere in the world, but it's a new strain and it was found in Australia. With my luck, I'm going to be playing The Last of Us against couch-sized spiders within the fucking week. Shrimp can cause explosions.
My main goal is to blow up.
Introducing the mantis shrimp, native to the West Indo-Pacific Ocean and possibly the coolest crustacean under the sea, because this fluorescent armored sausage is actually a voracious, bloodthirsty predator rocking enough surveillance equipment to scare the CIA with a weapon powerful enough to surpass Metal Gear. See, the mantis shrimp is a highly effective predator, and they find and track their prey with easily the most advanced set of eyes on the fucking planet. First off, each of these eye stalks can rotate independently like a periscope, giving them a full 360 degrees of vision. However, more importantly, they can see colours we can't. You see, the mantis shrimp's eyes contain a full 15 photoreceptor cones compared to our 3. Which is a fancy way of saying they can see in 16K HDR with ray tracing enabled at 500 render distance.
Oh my PC.
Now, not only is the visual clarity unmatched, they can also see into the infrared and ultraviolet light spectrums. And despite all of this, they still can't find who asked. What they can, however, find is their next meal. The mantis shrimp subsists on a diet of fish, worms, squidward, and, most importantly, Mr. Krabs. Now, crabs famously exist inside of a defensive shell. So, how does this polite little gentleman break into the shell? Simple. He throws hands. That's right, weighing in at only 90 grams and 38 centimeters in length, the mantis shrimp has a punch that produces 15,000 newtons of force. That is 176 newtons per gram. So if a human was capable of that same kind of force, a right hook from someone who weighs 80 kilo would be like getting hit in the face with 6 sticks of dynamite. Now, to produce that force, its claw needs to be moving at 83 kilometers an hour, which is so fast it creates a vacuum in the water called a cavitation bubble, which then immediately collapses at such a speed it creates a mini explosion that flashbangs the target and reaches a temperature hotter than the surface of the sun. Mr. Krabs is getting f***ing disintegrated.
Money, money, money.
Basically a xenomorph. Introducing the tarantula hawk wasp, possibly one of the most nightmare-inducing insects on the planet. And the reason it's such a threat to your mental health is because its hunting and reproduction strategy is ripped straight from Ellen Ripley's autobiography. But before we get to the strats, you're gonna have to learn a little bit about it first. Native to Australia, because of course it fucking is, this fucker is the largest wasp on the planet, coming in at a massive 2.5 inches. Which, I mean, boys, we would all agree, well above average, right? Huge. And this is probably the most effective 2 inches has ever been because it has the second most painful sting of any insect on the planet, coming in just barely behind the bullet ant. Pack and a half-inch stinger with a potent venom that has been described as blinding, debilitating, and electric. Now, the size and poison aren't just for nothing, because as the name tarantula hawk wasp suggests, they are purpose-built, genetically perfect killing machines designed specifically to violate spiders, making Australia basically an all-you-can-eat buffet for them. But they don't just execute the spiders. No, that'd be too normal. Hawk wasps use spiders to reproduce in one of the most horrific ways possible. And that all starts with a female hawk wasp hunting down a tarantula. As the buff bulking spider takes a wrong turn down a dark alley, the hawk wasp, noticing the 8 sets of TNs on his feet, proceeds to fucking jump him, flying down from above to land a sting into the spider's abdomen, instantly and permanently paralyzing it. The Bug Harbour butcher then proceeds to drag the still completely conscious and aware spider into an isolated kill room, which is where the fucked up part really begins. Because our wasp isn't hungry, it's pregnant, and proceeds to lay its egg on the paralysed spider's abdomen. After about 3 to 4 days, that egg hatches into a larvae. A very, very hungry larvae. Fortunately, there's a whole bunch of fresh fruit right here underneath them. That food being the still paralysed, still very conscious and aware spider. The larvae burrows into the spider's abdomen and gets to work converting it into a KFC family bucket, consuming it from the inside out, purposely avoiding vital organs to keep the food nice and fresh. After it's done consuming a living being, the larvae breaks forth from the demolished corpse like a fucking chestburster and fucks off to continue the generational arachnid violation. Anywho, good luck getting any sleep tonight. Horror villains. I mean, seriously, this industrial-sized lizard is easily one of the biggest assholes in the animal kingdom when it comes to hunting methods, packing a PhD in suffering and a double degree in biological warfare purely because they cannot be expending effort to hunt. You see, Godzilla's little cousin here is the largest lizard in the world, weighing up to 166 kilos and being a full 3.13 meters in length, which means, for the short kings in my audience, if you're brave enough, banger mode of transport right there. Now, being the reptile equivalent of a Cadillac Escalade means that the Komodo dragon needs to consume a lot of calories to keep that bulk going. However, rather than using that bulk to proactively chase down and body slam its prey, they can take down prey 3 times their size, because as if being a reptilian tank was not enough, they are also venomous. And this isn't just your run-of-the-mill snake venom that, gives you a nice quick 15-minute death. No. A Komodo hunt starts with it running up to its prey and giving it a nice big chomp on the leg, injecting it with hemorrhagic venom. After biting, the Komodo dragon off and just sits there watching. The confused and bewildered animal runs off into the forest, leaking blood, allowing that Komodo dragon to track it like a DoorDash order. A week goes by, and that bite wound isn't closing because hemorrhagic venom prevents blood clots. So, the animal is still slowly bleeding out, and the Komodo is still watching. More time passes. That bite wound gets infected because Komodos are carrion feeders, meaning that the inside of their mouth is full of enough rotting flesh and bacteria to give Asmongold a run for his money. The infection begins to drain the animal's strength, and the Komodo is still watching. Another week passes. The infection has spread, and the flesh has begun to rot. And you best believe that ass lizard is still there watching like he's waiting for his meal to heat up in the microwave. Once the bleeding, disease-ridden animal becomes too exhausted to move on its own and collapses, the Komodo strolls over and eats it alive, shredding it into chunks if it's larger, or if it's small enough, swallowing it whole as it screams on the way down. Even for me, man, that's Australia lost a war to emus. But how? How the did we lose an armed conflict with flightless birds? Well, it all started in 1932 when farmers in Western Australia wanted to grow wheat. There was just one major problem. That's emu territory, and emus really like wheat. And coming in at 6 foot tall and 40 kilos in weight, they can eat a lot of it. So when breeding season came around, the emus migrated through the farmland, and these poor farmers were overwhelmed by a tyrannid swarm of man-sized poultry, 20,000 emus strong. These feathered tanks then proceeded to completely steamroll through the fences into the fields and started laying waste to the wheat. The farmers attempted to fight back the initial wave with rifle fire, but their efforts were, putting it lightly, completely useless. This ginormous L made the farmers pretty bloody angry, so they gathered together and went to the government to ask for help. Sir, 20,000 emus have hit the wheat fields. Me, mate. And so the government declared the emus enemies of the state and sent in the army to commence the Great Emu War. The entire 7th Heavy Artillery Division was deployed to WA, armed with 2 LMGs, 10,000 rounds, and the sole objective to blast anything with feathers. A little bit excessive for an overgrown turkey if you ask me, and upon their first deployment, the army immediately ran into a major problem. Emus are fast.
I am speed.
Really fast, clocking a top speed of 50 kilometers an hour, which meant that once they opened fire, the emus would immediately bolt out of range of their weapons. But they still took a crack at it, and then immediately stopped when both LMGs jammed after only dropping 12 emus. This embarrassment led the army to retreat and rethink their plan. So a few weeks later they returned, this time mounting the LMGs on trucks in an attempt to run the birds down. However, this also didn't work, because after figuring out that those trucks meant they were about to be turned into a KFC family bucket, the emus started leaving scout birds who would warn the flock of the approaching trucks, which gave them all enough time to book it before the army even got there. And whenever they did catch the emus, they found out they were kind of... Because emus are mostly feathers, and there's a lot of places you can hit on them without doing any damage, meaning it was taking around 10 bullets for every one bird. So after a month of blood, sweat, tears, and 10,000 rounds of ammunition, the army managed to bring down 960. The population was 20,000. This was an issue as, unlike America, our defense budget is not a bottomless pit. So the army had wasted all that money to achieve absolutely fuck all. So the government just kind of built a really long, really shit fence around the farms and called it a day. How the fuck did we lose this? I could have done a better job with a boomerang and a cricket bat. We'll put you in the hospital.
I'm dying.
This is the Gimpy Gimpy plant, a piece of foliage native to the land down under. And surprising no one, not only is the thing venomous, it is in fact the most painful plant on the planet. Because yeah, no, of course man, even the fucking leaves down here have a problem with me. Growing in the rainforests of northern Queensland, these hell bushes are covered in tiny hairs that upon closer inspection aren't hairs at all and are actually thousands of hypodermic needles waiting to stab you and break off inside your skin if you so much as brush them. Once inside you, these needles will inject you with, I am not kidding, neurotoxin and cause absolutely excruciating pain. I mean like comedic levels of pain. With one person describing it as being covered in hot acid and electrocuted, and another woman saying that it was straight up more painful than childbirth and she'd given birth 4 times. And the fucked up part is, the neurotoxin isn't even lethal. So this spiteful cunt of a plant is hurting you purely for the love of the game. Mind you, there are reports of people saying getting stung by this thing is actually worse than being put in the ground. This is because Groot's little hellspawn cousin here can continue hurting you for literal years after being stung. This is because those thousands of little hypodermic needles are actually made out of silicon, meaning your body can't break them down. And with how thin they are, your skin will usually close up over the top of them, meaning that these neurotoxin emitting slivers can sit inside your skin for literal years, releasing more neurotoxin anytime that they're moved or disturbed. This constant, chronic, agonizing pain is so unbelievably bad that there have even been records of, trying not to get banned here, people Alt F4ing existence to make it stop. This particular incident came from a man who accidentally used one of the plant leaves as toilet paper. I don't think it gets much worse than neurotoxin to the nuts. Can't beat 100 men in a fight. He gets jumped. But that begs the question, which animal does win? And the answer, stepping into the ring at 5 meters long and weighing in at a genuinely frightening 4,500 kilos, I present to you the hippopotamus. Yeah, look, a hippo causing a 100 long line at the gates of heaven after a fight is honestly pretty plausible. You see, despite the fantastic PR work Moodang has done for the hippopotamus community, doesn't change the fact that Moto here is a sentient Ford F-150, the temperament of a fucking serial killer who can win this fight for one very specific reason. You can't fucking hurt it. You say the hippopotamus is possibly the tankiest land animal on the fucking planet, packing an unbelievably thick 2-inch hide. Now look, we all know 2 inches is a lot, especially in the sheets, but in the streets of the African savannah, this makes them practically Don't believe me? Here is a hippopotamus walking away from 10 lions trying to convert it into a family meal. Notice how the hippopotamus does not give a single fuck If Mufasa and his extended family can't hurt it, neither can you. However, don't let the fact that it's walking away fool you here. The hippopotamus is not a peaceful animal. They are, in fact, violent, psychopathic, 4.5-ton thundercats that can and will bite you in half. A hippo's jaw produces 2,000 psi of pure crushing force. So if he catches your ass, you are the watermelon. And as if the hydraulic press wasn't bad enough, don't forget they've got two 20-inch fangs in that mouth that'll put a hole in you big enough to stick your f***ing arm through. But honestly, the bite doesn't even f***ing matter. It weighs 4.5 tons and can run at 30k an hour. Getting hit by a charging hippo is like getting hit by a f***ing bus. There is no way we are winning a fight against something that could probably take out 10 people just by rolling over. In summary, don't f*** with the hungry hippo. Most snails aren't scary, except for this one. This one's Australian. Introducing the cone snail, an aquatic mollusk native to the land down under. And as seems to be the requirement when sharing your postcode with a kangaroo, you guessed it, it can quite easily cause your neck snap to be in a coffin. And the way it can achieve it is this bad boy right here. You see, despite most snails having a reputation for being slow goobers that get folded by a salt shaker, the cone snail is a highly effective ambush predator, and you may be wondering, how the fuck does a creature that moves slower than the GTA 6 development cycle hunt anything? Well, that's simple. It has a grappling hook. That's right, Gary's murderous little cousin here is a roadhog mate.
Hi there.
And he hunts by slowly but surely stalking up on his prey until he's just within range, and then bang! The cone snail does a quarter circle input, spitting out a tooth harpoon at 90 kilometers an hour. This harpoon then nails its prey, allowing them to reel it in like he's playing Scorpion. And in case that wasn't bad enough, as seems to be a requirement for spawning on Australian servers, it's venomous. That harpoon also injects its prey with a highly potent neurotoxin that instantly paralyzes it. This means it cannot put up a fight, as it is sucked into the snail's ginormous maw like a nightmarish version of Kirby. And, just in case you thought for once you might be safe, cone snail venom is potent enough to kill 700 people with one sting. Oh yeah, and there's no anti-venom, because it's not enough that it can kill me. No, I have to die knowing there is zero counterplay. Who balanced this shit? Dolphins get drunk. But why? Well, you see, the dolphin is by far and away the smartest animal in the ocean. In fact, they're actually the second smartest thing on the planet, just behind you and me. This means they are smart enough to understand that the ideal way to spend your night is more plastered than Chad and Max on your average Cold Ones episode. There is just one problem. Last I checked, there's no bottle-o in Bikini Bottom. So, how does a dolphin get fired for all? Simple. They abuse pufferfish. You see, due to the lack of underwater alcohol, dolphins need to find other ways to get their fix, which is where SpongeBob's driving instructor comes in. You see, pufferfish contain this really cool and totally not dangerous substance called tetrodotoxin. What is tetrodotoxin? It's only one of the most potent natural neurotoxins on the fucking planet. This shit will freeze your heart and lungs in under an hour with a tiny dose. And it's the reason why cooking a pufferfish requires a dexterity check so you don't, hit the poison gland and get yourself deleted. Now, puffers carry this as a defense mechanism as poison accumulates in their organs and skin. Why is that important? Well, you see, I kinda lied. Dolphins don't get drunk. They get high on neurotoxin.
¿Quieres?
Pods of dolphins will bully pufferfish until they inflate, then partake in a literal puff-puff pass. By lightly squeezing the puffer in their mouth, they receive a small dose of neurotoxin, which has a narcotic effect, allowing Flipper here to trip balls before passing the unhappy basketball onto the next submarine stoner. Flipper and friends saw the deadliest neurotoxin on the planet and said, "Fuck it, let me try some of that." This animal will peel your face off like a banana. Introducing the one creature that strikes fear into the hearts of every Aussie, the infamous, terrifying drop bear. A species of predatory marsupial exclusive to the land down under. This genuine nightmare may seem pretty normal at first, closely resembling the koala bear, and that is by design. You see, the drop bear is an ambush predator, patrolling the branches of the eucalyptus tree and using their keen sense of smell to detect incoming prey. And once they can smell you approaching, they will position themselves in the leaves of the trees, being basically impossible to spot unless you're actively looking for them. And even if you do see them, you're automatically going to assume it's a koala. And that assumption is probably going to be the last mistake you make, because walking under these things is inviting the most painful death you can think of. Once you've walked into range, the drop bear will launch itself from a tree and aim directly for your head. Small animals will often be clapped on impact as the 20-kilo drop bear launched itself out of the tree so fast that it snaps their spine. And they're the lucky ones, because once they make contact with your head, drop bears will immediately puncture your scalp with their foreclaws and latch on like a fuzzy little face hugger. Once firmly attached to your skull, the drop bear will start to kick out your eyes with its hind claws in an attempt to blind you. And while they are forcing you to cosplay Daredevil, they will be tearing into your face with their fangs like a fucking chainsaw. The attacks are so vicious, most human victims end up being completely scalped and having their faces removed. And even if you manage to pull them off in the initial assault, those claws contain a potent neurotoxin which will paralyze you in under 5 minutes, allowing them to run you down and eat you alive. Australia loses roughly 600 people per year to drop bear attacks. So if you want to survive your trip down under, I have a secret to share with you about the drop bear. And that secret is that all of this is complete and utter bullshit. Drop bears aren't real. I made it all up. April Fool's.